So we want to know the truth. We are looking for it, we are reading about it, trust, we have a faith in it, we try to discover through debates or speculation, or sometimes we feel like, oh, I know everything. How I see things, how I recognize the things, how I perceive the world, that's the truth. And there are many people who think like, they're holding the right thing, and and I would say only this is right and all other ideas are wrong. They sometimes get quite passionate about it, and they say, that's the truth, and then they analyze it or point to some books or to some lineage. You would say, this is the truth because it's written in such and such a book, or because this is how I was growing up, or like talking about the pure race or pure nation, because we grow up within it and then we think that's a pure and a stable one and the best one. And people go so far that actually they will really go into fights and wars. And everywhere is the same pattern, not just in the history of religion, but in the history of politics, and then just like here, in this village, in this room, between two people. Yeah. Everybody will think, we always think that, how we see things, that must be the truth. Other people don't understand, they're wrong. I know my perspective is the right one. And everybody can say that way. So also happened in the Buddha's time, when some ascetics or Brahmins, they were coming to the Buddha, and also they tried to argue with him. And they were telling him, only this is the truth, everything else is wrong. And they came out with all kinds of ideas about of the Brahma and all the is there afterlife or not, or even with the idea that nothing exists or everything exists, and everything is ultimate, or everything is just darkness. There was a lot of them. In some point, in the story, there was Brahmins came to the Buddha and tried to argue again. In this story, in the Canki Sutta, the Brahmins tried to argue, how the Vedas are the right teachings, and Buddha was questioning these things. How do you know is the right? Did your teacher said, I see the truth, and there's the truth, and everything is wrong? The young Brahmin said, no, my teacher didn't say that one. And the Buddha asked, well, did the teacher's teacher said, I see the truth, and that's it, and everything is wrong? And he said, also, that's not, also not. And the Buddha said, what are these 7 generations back and more? How far do you have to go? And I said, well, we're just going to trust the oral tradition. The Buddha was not very, said, well, you're not really going to reach the truth just by believing in some lineage, or not just by faith, and also not just by some kind of oral tradition. He said, yes, you might accept things on trust, or because you prove, or because of oral tradition, or because of reasoned cognition, or reflective acceptance of a view. But these things which you hold, yes, you might actually hold the wrong things. You might have the faith in the wrong things, or you might have trust, or maybe you're proving the wrong things. And also can happen that actually you rejected something which is the truth, while you're trusting something else. So he said all these things: faith, approval, tradition, reasoning, and some kind of reflective acceptance of a view. So this means you're investigating on your own and you came with some conclusion. He said it's not good enough model. It's not like you will come any further or really reach the truth. So yes, but we start with these things. We have to start where we are, and we start with ignorance. We start with not knowing, we start with a blind faith. But Buddha said, still, even if you go through this faith and approval or some kind of acceptance of some ideology, you can preserve the truth. You preserve it in the way that you don't claim this is the truth and everything is wrong, because you don't know. The right answer, the right way of saying would be, well, that's my faith, but I don't really know. This is my reasoning, but I don't really know the truth. Or you would say that's what the tradition tells me and I like it, but I don't really know what the truth is. So that would be the right response, rather than actually just believing in something and say, well, that's the truth and everything is wrong, and just being fanatic about it. The same, this is how we hold the Buddha's teaching. We can't just say, read some passages and we like it and we say, oh, only this is truth, everything is wrong. No, that's not right. This is not how you preserve the truth. This is just your liking. It's affected by your desires. It's affected by your perspective, and it's affected by your ignorance. So definitely that's not the truth. You might hear the words, but you don't hear the truth because you don't see it. So that's how the Buddha said, okay, this is how we preserve the truth. So we talk truthfully. But how to get the truth? How to recognize it? How to realize it? And the Buddha said, well, you have to hear the teaching. And it's not just, being satisfied with some words, but you have to see that this teaching, how it's applied in the teacher's life. Does he walk the talk? Yeah? Does it do what he says in his teachings? So in the Buddha's teaching, the truth is actually, we say that's covered or buried under desire, hatred, and delusion. And if the teacher is affected by greed, hate, and delusion, then doesn't really see, is not really liberated. And that's one of our judgments we can use when we came across the teaching. That is he affected, are his deeds and his speech affected by greed? Sometimes we can recognize these things externally. So if the monk says, or the teacher says, I know the truth, I see the truth, but sometimes he's affected by greed or desire, then we can know, well, he doesn't really see and he doesn't really know. And that person will not able to teach the teaching which is actually profound, which is very hard to see and very hard to understand, which is peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle, and to be experienced by the wise. So that monk affected by greed will not able to teach Dhamma. You see, the Buddha said it's difficult to see. But sometimes, or very often really, we hear the teachings which are very inspiring or beautiful, poetic even, and but doesn't really talk about the nature of the problem. Monks or teachers who might not see the truth, they're more spending their time how to speak nicely and in the way they actually maybe using like a Dhamma as an art, and making more, how nowadays you would say, commercial. It sells better. And this is the Buddha was foreseeing the problem. He said there was going to be decline of the Dhamma when the teachers will start teaching mere poetry. Beautiful words, but not much of meaning. People will go out from the room or conferences or Dhamma halls, kind of inspired, but not then ask, what did you hear? Oh, then which is good. It just felt good. Well, it's not enough. It just felt good. Yeah, so hard to understand, which kind of also that leads to investigation. So the teaching which doesn't give you just information, but actually is a teaching which helps you, guides you, that you want to recognize that in your experience. So it's not a teaching which is just information and you can just take it for granted, that's the truth, but actually the teaching which you can see that actually can take it home and really investigate for yourself. But we'll come to that one now. And just to add that the same applies, if the monk or teacher is affected by hatred and also delusion. So when the trust and the faith is established, then of course there is a first factor for recognizing the truth is, the Buddha said, is faith or trust. So if you don't have trust, nothing's going to happen. It's like, if you have cancer and you don't trust the doctors, let's say, you won't do anything about it. So you have to have a trust that the doctor can help you. This is the first and fundamental factor for recognizing the Dhamma, the truth. So when you have a trust, then you approach and pay respect to him. So you see, the respect is here because, we might have a faith or trust, but there's this sense of kind of arrogance, and when we're paying respect, it's like showing that, yes, I'm prepared to listen, I'm prepared to hear, I'm prepared to recognize if there is any obstacle in my mind. So when you have a trust and you approach, then, as the Buddha said, you give ear. So basically you attend to the words. This means like fully listening. We're quite accustomed nowadays, we do half listening. Sometimes we lost the connection while the person is talking. But here we do whole attention, give the ear. So when you give the ear, then you hear the Dhamma. Having heard the Dhamma, he memorizes it and examines the meaning of the teaching he has memorized. And better translation, that's not the best translation, I wouldn't use memory, but it's more like having in the front of yourself. So it's like teaching be in front of you. You're holding it in front. It's not just merely memorizing the words and I heard these teachings and then nothing doing about it. It's just somewhere stored in your mind. But no, you're holding that in front of you. You hear teaching and you are keeping sight of it. So then, of course, you examine it. Examining means, do I see these things in my experience? And what does it mean? More you investigate, then you start gaining the reflective acceptance of those teachings. You're not taking this teaching merely just as some kind of to hold information in your mind, but actually it says like it's a reflective acceptance. So you start really recognizing those things in your experience. But the word insight is also nijana. So it's not just like accepting, it's more when you investigate, the mind becomes unified. This sense of me dealing with the things also starts disappearing. This kind of sense of duality. And it's just the most unified experience. You recognize experience as such. So it's not so much about being lost in particular information or particular idea, but you start recognizing the experience in most general level. You're not so much lost in the content, but you start recognizing that the most, if I can sound more poetical, sublime or the light, peaceful, sphere, then it's not like holding information, but it's holding this kind of recognition. And then you can investigate, how this experience is, why it becomes something that is. When that's properly done, of course, zeal springs up. And after that, you apply your will, effort, you scrutinize, and then you strive, and then when you strive, then you can recognize the truth. And the person there, the Brahmin, asks, oh, that's it, just like that. And Buddha said, no, that's not even enough to reach truth. Now you have to repeat it over and over again. So it's repetitive kind of development of these factors. And the Buddha kind of reminds as well, how to do that all the time in his teachings. When one wants to repeat, over and over again, then eventually you will realize the truth. So you see, it goes completely another direction than other philosophies, ideologies, faiths, religions go. While everybody is occupied with facts or content, and they start arguing about it and defending it and analyzing, or just us, just kind of hearing something and we immediately say, oh yes, no, I found something that actually resonates with me, I'm so happy, and I feel so jolly good and cool, let's now go to drink, and my friends, I can be so happy now, and that's it. And it lasts as long as it lasts, and then immediately, start kind of cracking this kind of delight, and nirvana and enlightenment is kind of disappearing. But sometimes we don't even want to admit it's disappearing, and then we kind of start subconsciously, so to speak, defending it, repairing it, argue about it. No, I know. So we get kind of absorbed, and that's one of the greatest obstacle for any development and recognizing the truth. If you're fixated and absorbed into whatever, even if you believe that's the Buddha's teaching, but if you fixate in it and you think that's the truth and everything else is wrong, you absolutely actually, you didn't do anything good. You actually go even further away from the Buddha. So you cannot be a Buddhist fanatic, because Buddhist fanatics actually are getting more away from the Buddha. Buddha will compare these people, even if they're standing close to me, even touching my robe, in reality they're very, very far away from me. But those who actually practice correctly, not without fixating the content, but basically, stepping back, recognizing, going to these factors when you actually, with your support of mindfulness and proper investigation, you're seeing that the background of where your intentions lie. Because your intentions interpret things about anything. Intentions in the sense like, what is this for? This is defining, but you don't see that actually there must be some kind of background that defines things for you. It makes it to be something, whatever. So we are just absorbed into think, but not actually, we don't notice what is that makes that thing possible. We're just happy, it's a book in front of me. But what makes book to be a book? So that's always in the background, but it's there. So consciousness, because consciousness is not the object. But without consciousness, it will be book. Intentions, perception, feeling. There's many things, so to speak, in the system or mechanism that makes things to be recognizable and defined. But we take it so much for granted. We don't see how much this book is dependent on the background. We just see that's kind of separate thing, and we start taking it as a mine. We are cherishing it, we're fighting, don't steal it, we're protecting it, we can't sleep, we might even kill someone because of that. But one who knows, and investigates properly, the Buddha said, even if that person is very far away from me, actually is very close to me. The Buddha is not in the body, the Buddha is the Dhamma. If we are recognizing and that the nature as they are, the things as they are, then we actually are close to the Buddha. Buddha Dhamma is dying, and it's dying because people, read things, and then they read in the same way as they would read any scholarly paper. So there's a facts, they analyze, compare, writing extra texts, commentaries, but they don't really know for themselves. They're lost in the content and try to logically connect them together, but what they forgot is actually include themselves into the investigation. So they're kind of isolated, like analyzing the world, but they don't recognize that actually there wouldn't be the world without consciousness. There wouldn't be the world if there wouldn't be the point of view. When everybody talks about spirituality or internal practice, well, from the Buddha's perspective, anything what the world calls internal will be for us external. So like spatial experiences, spiritual experiences, superhuman experiences, energies, that's all external. It's a content. It is. What will be internal? It's really that background, something which space within that recognition is. So anything what is in front of us, through 5 senses, but also includes mind. So pictures, images, which occurs in our minds, is also external. So if you go absorbed in images, fascinations, visions, lights, energies, it's the same thing as you will go being absorbed into pizza, good music. It's all external. And we have to, the beginning is very, very hard to recognize the difference between internal and external. And the Buddha was then saying that, purify your external world, your externality, so you don't follow your passions or living a virtuous life. You purify your virtue, you're generous and so on, because what helps you that you're less absorbed into this kind of external world, or just anything regards external, losing the perspective of the internal. And that's actually something beautiful, because it's liberating to recognize that there wouldn't be external without internal, or internal without external. Just example, what could be regarded as internal, external. So when we are hearing right now the sound of this voice, that's the external. You can agree with this one. But in the background, there wouldn't be sound if there wouldn't be the ear, the organ of ear. So ear is not an object now, it's the sound. And we don't actually thinking about the ear at all. If you think about the ear, there's another problem, because this actually becomes external, because we imagine in our mind is an image. So, but actually, if you completely keep it as a background, you don't really see in front of you. But it wouldn't be the sound without the ear. So it's like recognizing the background. It's recognizing that it is there. You can discern it, but you don't make an object out of it. So that's like a practice, and then we do like everything, tasting or looking, all experience. We see that there's a content, the thing, But there wouldn't be this content, it would be a context or the background or things that make this experience possible. Why does it help? This is that we start losing the sense of self, because we actually identify ourselves with this background, something which is not in front of us. Yeah? Try to catch yourself. And then it's always something escapes. That's me. But what is that thing that recognize yourself? Oh, okay, this is myself. What about that one who is attending to that idea that that's yourself? Oh, just like goes back and back and back. So you don't really catch it because it's in the background. And we don't know what it is. It's beginningless delusion, assumption that there is I. And there's I and the world and things are for me. And then when you actually investigate the nature, when you start recognizing this background, because you can't do it directly, you can't put it in front of you because there's always something going to escape, the background. So you have to keep it as the background. And start recognizing background all the time. You're hearing, recognize what is there in the experience right now while I'm listening. In the beginning will be hard to recognize all these things, but after time and effort, it's going to be more and more clear. So the more we establish, more we are stronger. So we have to practice like that before the problem arises. Don't wait that you get hurt. Don't wait when desires start stirring up your mind. Because when the mind is strong, that means it's prepared. And when other experiences come, let's say fear, you're more ready, prepared. Fear already starts showing you the nature of the experience. It's like, when the fear comes, let's say a ghost appears, or it takes you because you don't know what can happen. And there are billions, endless possibilities. You know. And these endless possibilities is just like scary because you start losing the ground. So there's a time when you start seeing that actually there are possibilities. But possibilities are all the time present right now. That possibilities makes experience possible. Possibilities define things. But the problem is we don't see possibilities, we just see the things. Not recognizing that the things, there wouldn't be the things without possibilities. Everything, the things are stable, permanent. And not just objects in front of us, but just our identity, just our sense of self. But again, we don't recognize those possibilities. We are naive, we are deluded, we are blinded that we're thinking that there is permanent, unshakable self. And when the fear comes, it shakes. That's why it's so frightening, the fear. Fear is like death. You identify yourself with something, and then because you identify yourself with something, death applies to you. You're going to die. And that's too late. Already takes you. You're not ready. With proper practice, we start recognizing possibilities all the time. We recognize this background, we recognize that anything can happen. We don't have to wait for the war, or just like right now. There are thousands, countless possibilities, and these possibilities we cannot control. Let's say just heart attack, anytime. But how to deal with it? Well, before actual fears arises. And that we do, that actually we start recognizing the structure of experience. Not so much dealing with informations and ideas, or anything that actually comes down your fear. Sometimes what comes down our fear is kind of interpretation. The fear comes and then God is protecting me. Everything's fine. Or fear comes, it's nothing there. It's just a mouse. It's not a tiger. It's just a mouse. It is a mouse. Thinking that fear is out there because we think that we are afraid because of the potential tiger coming to us. Or okay, I should say maybe bear around this our area. But we have to recognize there's nothing there in the world that causes us a fear. It's actually our ignorance that's causing the fear. And that's, bottom line about all these ideologies is just how to cover up the truth. They give interpretations, ideas, holy books, just to make the life more bearable. But that obviously all ideologies and religions try that, but it always fails. It never really lasts. It's always a struggle. So I will end here and try to encourage you to not to be completely lost in any kinds of interpretations in your life. Just like if there are suffering even in the problems among the people, when it comes to interpretation, does she love me? And then we can start interpreting and try to analyze it out, externally, and then we suffer about it. But instead of losing yourself in external things, try to recognize internal. What will be here internal? Oh, fear of losing, running away from unpleasant feelings. That's the cause of suffering. Craving is the cause of suffering, not the person over there. Okay, thank you for attention. If there are any questions and it's clarifying what I said, you feel welcome to do so.
Is the best to contemplate about your self? Is there a question to ask yourself, who am I, or something?
The problem is because you want to see the truth directly, not through your viewpoint. But now you're already taking for granted that there is self. What myself? And you're just like looking again in the content. See, I forgot looking the internal side of it, or it's a background, however you want to call it. So you see, you can't just have is there a self? Because okay, there is a self, but what it is. But you don't need to question the idea of self. What you can ask is okay, but at the beginning we can't even say there's no self. That's something so-called Buddhists, they do. Oh, self doesn't exist. There's no self. Well, for the ignorant person, there is self. You should recognize that you had a feeling there's a self, and that's it, because this is what you experience. But if you just say there's no self, what you do, you just take another ideology and hold it and defend it, and then you don't know. There's no self, and this is the truth, and everything is wrong. And Christians are wrong because such and such things. No, you don't know. You have faith that there's no self, but you don't know. But you can kind of have feeling, there is a self. Good. So, but now you have to investigate, or ask yourself, what is that I'm taking as a self? Why this sense of self comes? What? But again, you don't try to hold yourself with these things without looking for the answer out there, or more like recognizing. So see how much is important to calm the mind, and not just that, but actually practice mindfulness all the time in their everyday life and properly practicing meditation. Like I said in the sutta, it's not just And it's, said reflectively acceptance, but actually it's like, the word janati is inside, which means like, there's kind of some kind of meditative state. Yeah. So when you meditate, let me just give another example what it can be used at the beginning of this kind of how to develop that contemplation. When you're doing meditation, you're breathing in and breathing out, and you keep it this kind of breathing very natural. You don't have to control it. Just recognize what it is. If it's deep, recognize it's deep. If it's shallow, it's like that, But it's very important that you know what's happening. So it's not some kind of breathing technique or absorption with the breathing, but it's very important that actually you know what's going on. So there's the breathing, and you know. So breathing out, and you know it's breathing out. Breathing in, and you know that it's breathing in. And then you keep repeating until this nature of knowing stays more firm, or let's say, gets more established. It almost feels like it becomes unshakable. It's more like a concentration or collectedness. It's firm. And then you see there's a breathing in and breathing out, but within that kind of strong background, strong awareness, strong space. And it doesn't get shaken. Breathing in, breathing out, or if anything other distraction comes to it, it's just like it feels so distant. Like so distant that you might not, doesn't disturb the stillness. Yeah, because you recognize the stillness, and within it there can be some movement, but within that one. And that is usually the kind of recognition of the background. But that's the one thing in the background as well, it's actually body. So you see, your object was breathing in and breathing out, but you actually didn't give no attention directly to the body. Not body. But how would you recognize breathing in and breathing out if they wouldn't be also recognizing the body? Without the body, there wouldn't be breathing in and breathing out. So body is there. And the body is conditioned for the breathing. Of course, but you have to recognize the body as the background in the experience. You have to keep it that way. Because if you start looking at the body, well, that's not the background anymore, it becomes the object of your attention. Then breathing in, breathing out might be in the background. Why is this important? Like I said again, that you start seeing that actually the background was always there, but nobody talks about it. Or because, we all investigate the content and we're just so absorbed into it, but not actually, well, there will be a content in other context. Wow. So, and then you start seeing, then nothing exists on its own. There wouldn't be internal without external, or external without internal. All these things are dependent to each other, and nothing is there that stands on its own. Because exactly this idea of self is because we have assumption that there stands on its own, that everything is changing, but not myself. Everything is going to die and something like that, but not my soul. This is mine. And because of this problem, because of this ignorance, then all other problems come. Desire and hatred. Why do we have desire and hatred if there will be nothing permanent, nothing to maintain your conceit? Does it answer the question? One more question, if is there?
What do you think about meditating with eyes open?
The eyes open is fine. If you can do it, it's fine. But it depends how is your samadhi already established. Sometimes people see it's like they get distracted, they can't recognize the background while they're looking. So generally, a lot of monks will actually say for beginners, better to have the eyes closed, but it doesn't have to be. I don't think the Buddha ever mentioned there has to be eyes closed. He was not bothered with this one. that's up to each individual to see what works better. I sometimes have closed, I have sometimes open. You know, I sometimes meditate while I'm reading the suttas, because then even then when we properly investigate, when we're reading such kind of texts, we don't read as something to. It's not intellectual. And people say, "Oh, it's so hard. It's intellectual. So much information." No, because if you know how to recognize these things, like together with this content in the background, then those words, when you read, you reading and at the same time recognizing. So, and if you do recognizing, then all these we were talking about before, Bojjhanga, 7 enlightened factors, start coming, start applying. So all this mindfulness is there, then calm and mind get concentrated, and then the light and at peace and equanimous, all these factors start getting established, which is also factors of samadhi. Can happen. You read and suddenly your mind just becomes so unified. Okay? That's when we start seeing that actually we know how to investigate and we're doing the proper way. When I was a junior monk, I didn't know. Didn't know how to investigate. So I was reading the suttas, a lot of informations, a lot of things to remember, and I like it and defend it and argue about it. And then go to my meditation, blank my mind, nothing happening, no thoughts, but then, okay, go out for meditation, let's do it again. But what has to do all this reading to do with my meditation? Why I have to read so much if you just in the mind, and then. What my meditation has any support for these studies? Do I feel more concentrated when I'm reading this? Not really. That starts me to doubt I'm doing something wrong. It's like two different things, and that's the wrong way. It should be all together. And then when I learned after a period in gradual practice, of course, I didn't develop gradually. Then I started recognizing more and more and more, that actually, reading, proper investigating, like properly giving the ear, it does lead to calm and, potentially even to the jhanas, so a deeper state of samadhi. And also, when we do formal meditation, so to speak, sitting here, those Buddhist teaching can be recognized in the experience. If I can sound poetical, the suttas are just dancing in front of you. The Buddha's words are just like dancers in front of you, and you enjoy it. So it's funny, before was this book so boring and technical, now it's just like the most personal, the best description of experience. It's the most personal as it can get. That no poetry or no emotional sharing can do. Replace these things. And now feels like so foreign. It's like, oh my goodness, But then, when feels like, how to describe? It's just like, it's a magical book. It's really almost like, to sound poetical again, like it came from the heaven. Okay, I'll not hold you any longer because you'll probably like to settle down, go through the rain. And then probably all of you, see you tomorrow. So both of you staying here.